on Family Matters tonight. We've got really three special guests tonight. We have Ben, Sebastian and Zoe Pitcher, and they're all the way from Adelaide. And tonight we're going to be discussing the process of parenting. Now, parenting is probably one of the most challenging assignments that any couple has ever been given. We all struggle. We all face dilemmas. We all face, the difference between discipline and grace, how to deal with kids at various ages, how to keep up with the changes as our kids change. So what's going to happen tonight is that Ben, Sebastian and Zoe are going to help walk us through that together. So that'll be really good. So welcome to you all. It's good to have you on Family Matters tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Now, just before we start, I'll do a quick Bible reading. And this one comes from Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. These commandments I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road and when you lie down and when you get up. So a very simple Bible reading, but it does tell us a hell of a lot about bringing up children. So Ben, tell us about your family. And just let's meet you all.
Well, Lisa, my wife, and I have 3 children. Sebastian's our oldest, and Zoe and our youngest, Elliot, is off in his employment at the moment. But he's the tradesperson of the family, and Sebastian's studying education, and Zoe's a qualified nanny and studying interior design. They're all still at home because we just make life too good for them, I think.
I think Mum would miss us if we moved away from home.
And it's really, really lovely to have you both joining in with your dad tonight, because I think this is the very first time we've ever had parents and children join us on Family Matters. So it's very special. Thank you.
Yeah, it's going to be great to get some insight as to what parenting looks like from the other side.
Yeah, you can think of it as a scientific experiment, and these are the results, what it turned out like. What we did by what the results are.
Yeah. It often feels like that, doesn't it? It often feels like that. It often feels like a scientific experiment. And unfortunately, Sebastian, you're the oldest, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I'm the guinea pig for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you get the worst of it, the worst of everything. Yeah. All the experiments.
So Ben, can you tell us how your interest in parenting courses began?
I'm not sure that it was a compelling interest to start with. I was sort of press ganged into it, I felt. But the compelling thing came when friends of ours sort of said that, there's marriage courses and enrichment. Someone should do something for parenting, and basically gave us the info of where to go. And so we contacted this organisation that was distributing parenting courses, and it was was local to us in Adelaide here, that they distributed the stuff through Australia and New Zealand. Growing Families Australia, you can look them up online. And they said, we're having an information session for facilitators, why don't you come? And we turned up one night with a shared tea to a Baptist hall. We were really nervous about this, and we were met at the door by a couple of teenagers, about 14, 15, who took our meal. We went and had a session about presenting parenting courses and the material and stuff, and they brought out these sort of 4 unsupervised teenagers, brought out everyone's meal heated up for tea, And then we had another session, and then at the finish, they met us at the door with our dish washed and clean. And we had never seen anything like that anywhere, let alone in Christadelphia. And that was the thing that then made us think, wow, there's really something in this, that you can get children to be so responsible and willing and happy about it. You know, everyone seemed to be fearful of teenagers, and here was a completely opposite picture. And so that then got us inspired and interested.
Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic.
that's great. So you've called your courses the courses the process of parenting, is that right?
Oh no, the course is called Growing Godly Families or something.
Growing Godly Families. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
If you look that up online, it's a 17-week course. You can add the link below. There's gfi.org.au is the website, but that was the old way that you ordered DVDs. They now actually have the videos on demand. You can actually watch the 17-week series we did as videos on the website now that you subscribe to.
Okay.
That's growingfamilies.life. You can put the links below.
Yeah, we'll send them out in an email later on. That's cool.
Do you do these in live gatherings, or do you do these online courses?
Well, so now they've moved to online, but at the time when we were doing them, we did them in the lounge room with, you know, other like-minded families, and watch the video, and then it's a 45-minute video and you discuss it, and each one sort of takes you through different aspects of parenting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So tonight.
Yes, but the idea of talking about the process of parenting is really to sort of the big picture view of what you're doing in parenting, I think.
Yeah, when Dad first mentioned to us that he was coming on to speak about parenting, and he asked Zoe and I to come on with him, he's like, I've got so much material on parenting. What one topic should I talk about? And both of us separately came up with the same idea. Oh, you should talk about the process of parenting, especially if we're going to be there with you, because we can talk about how it, you know, how it changed from when we were younger to where we are now. And so that was really interesting that we both had the same idea.
Yeah.
No, that's fascinating. So where did this idea of a process come from? I mean, obviously, you know, a baby's born and it's quite a different thing, but like, you know, through to a teenager or young adults, how did you come up with that idea, you know?
Well, so this
background to it?
Yeah, so this isn't my invention. I'm just sharing things that were you know, shared with me. But logically, you can think about it. You know, you don't parent a 2-year-old the same you do a 16-year-old, and you wouldn't give the same freedoms to a the same way that you don't treat you shouldn't be treating a 16-year-old like a 2-year-old in the same way that you wouldn't give a 16-year-old freedoms to a 2-year-old. So they're sort of two ends of a process. So the way that I came to understand it is that you're really talking about discipline when you're talking about a young child, and then you're doing training and instruction, sort of toddler and older, and then when they get to sort of preteen through to teenage, you're coaching. So you're not instructing and disciplining anymore, you're coaching. And then the end process is friendship. So I'm well and truly into the friendship end of parenting with my children.
Yeah. So you got the 4 steps there. You've got discipline, instruction,
training and instruction,
coaching and discipline.
No, coaching, discipline,
coaching, and then friendship.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
You're sort of alluding to, like, where does this come from? And I think, you know, one of it is just logically from the scriptures. If you actually go look at, in the Hebrew, there's about 10 different words for children based on their age. So you actually have to, when you see a verse about discipline, if you look at the Hebrew word, it's often a very young child in the Hebrew. So when it talks about young men, it's never talking about discipline. It's talking about other things about young lads and youths. So yeah, training a child is not a young child. The discipline, the rod of instruction is a young child in the Hebrew. So you sort of can look at the scripture and see what age in the Hebrew it's talking about that process taking place. So you shouldn't be.
Oh, that's really cool. I was, yeah,
So,
just saying that's really cool. I'd never sort of
Yeah,
seen
so-
that before.
So one is the Hebrew. Secondly, kind of, there's the spiritual principle where, the law's a schoolmaster to bring us to Christ, and Christ discipled his disciples and then said, "You're my friends if you do what I command you." So you can sort of see you can see the spiritual line up of it. But to me, the best example is God as our Father. What does he do? And Abraham's the clearest example. He instructed Abraham to leave Ur like a young child, and as he then trained him and revealed more and more of his purpose to Abraham, walked alongside him like coaching, and then in the end we're told that Abraham was a friend of God.
Friend of God,
So
yeah.
he didn't start out as God's friend. He got there because he showed himself obedient. And in fact, you can go look it up. God said that I'm going to make of you a great nation because I know you're going to command your children after you, and they're going to follow in you the same pattern, and they're going to be obedient as well. So God as our Father is the best example of this process in the life of Abraham. Discipline, instruction and training, coaching, and then friendship.
A great picture.
So Zoe sees a lot of this with, like, she's a nanny and goes into people's houses.
Yeah.
What are the mistakes you often?
So what ages are the kids have you got that you're nannying, Zoe?
So I've done a range from 7 months up to 6, 7-year-olds. I've been nannying for 5 or 6 years, so I've had a few different families. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've been able to see this disciplining and instruction and the process yourself?
Yeah. And I found, because sometimes I would make the mistake, I would go in and I would start off a bit too much trying to be the child's friend and then trying to discipline them to get the routine, to get them into bed or get them to get in the car because we have to go somewhere. I found a lot trickier to work with those kids. So yeah, boundaries and discipline are quite important at the younger age.
Yeah, I've found a similar thing through my teacher training and things like that, where they talk about, initially when you first get a group of students, you have to set the boundaries, right? And then once you've set the boundaries, they understand, what the rules are and what kind of teacher you are and what you stand for. Then you can relax a little bit more, have a bit of fun with the class, especially like with the science teachers and stuff. If you're in a lab, there's certain things that need to be observed for safety reasons. And so you need to up front set out, well, these are the expectations, these are the rules, I'm going to be quite strict on this. But once everyone's fine with that, then we can start to relax, have some fun, as long as, it stays within those boundaries. But you can't just go in there and start joking around with the kids, otherwise they won't take you seriously as a teacher when there's stuff that's dangerous and could be harmful to them.
Yeah. So but there's one word that's come up over and over, which is a very touchy word at the moment: discipline. And everyone gets like, ooh, we've got a hands off or whatever. And so, what can you tell us about discipline?
Well, this actually wasn't in the parenting courses. A wise old sister said to Lisa that discipline starts when they're in nappies, and when you think about, like, a lot of people are scared of the word, but the word discipline relates to the word disciple. So this is really the foundation where you're creating the structure. And a young child isn't mentally and morally able to reason. So you've got to actually give the boundaries and guidelines. And so, you know, think about with a young baby, the baby wakes up, it's feed time, then play time, and then sleep time. Getting that routine is a discipline. There are other disciplines like learning what books you can touch. You know, those are daddy's books, don't touch them. Where are Henry's books? And so, you know, Henry is learning discipline and boundaries and structure, safety, like how to cross the road. That's discipline. And so, you know, yes, discipline is often associated with consequences. I think the thing you need to realize is that those consequences in the life of a child, there should be good consequences as well as bad consequences. So don't just focus on discipline as all about giving negative consequences. Discipline and training is about giving positive consequences as well. So it is consequences, but they are both positive and negative.
One example I remember Mum sharing with me, talk about when I was quite young. She said, you know, she used to like call me for, you know, to get my nappy changed or whatever, and I'd run the other way, and she'd think it was really cute and a fun little game, until one day we were out for a walk near a road, and she calls me, and I immediately want to go run the other way because that's the game. And she immediately realized maybe this isn't such a good idea. He needs to know for his own safety that sometimes he just needs to come when he's called because there's a car coming.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Sebastian. Yeah.
So the other thing I would say about, so the other thing is one of the first words children often learn is the word no. And they learn that it's a very powerful word and it works on them. Like you say no and they're like, ooh, and they know it's a powerful word because often they'll say it back to you. No, like, you know, I don't want to. So that's not a bad thing that they're using the word no. They actually know that it has power and they are learning to respond to it. But I think the epiphany that came to me about discipline, where people that are avoiding discipline entirely are completely missing out on this, is yes, discipline is about security and structure. Like children actually thrive on structure and routine. I mean, why do they always want the same book read to them? It's because they love the anticipation of what's coming next. So security and discipline is all about that structure. That's probably a whole nother topic. But the thing that discipline does, that was the epiphany for me, is it actually is the foundation in teaching your child empathy. So thinking about others. Now, you might think, how does discipline teach empathy? And the answer to that is really quite simple. You've said you've got these rules where there's consequences. Now, they've actually got to visualize, as a young child that's learning to use their cognition, they've actually got to visualize themselves in 10 minutes time and actually have empathy on their future self rather than want to do what's in the moment, because their future self is going to have the consequences of whatever their choice now is. And so they actually learn empathy by having consequences given to them where they have to go, in 10 minutes time, do I want the good consequence or the bad consequence? And once they start seeing themselves in 10 minutes time, that actually leads them to then being able to appreciate other people and other people's point of view, because children in their development are just very self-centered to start with. They don't actually appreciate that other people have feelings and like they do. But that is actually the start in teaching a child empathy, where once they can appreciate the consequences that might happen to themselves, they then realize that their actions have consequences on the children around them and start to appreciate that interaction. So discipline is actually not only boundary, safety, security, but it's actually the foundation in teaching our children empathy.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So what would you say? I mean, there's that almost a fight between discipline and someone going, well, I want to show my kids grace.
Yeah.
You know, so like, yeah, discipline seems harsh, but I want to be kind to my kids. Where's the middle ground there, or is there a middle ground?
Yeah. So I tend to find that the whole aspect of wanting to show grace to your children is often lined up with the same idea that you want to be friends with your kids. You don't want them to not like you. You're first and foremost, you're a parent, and you've got that whole health and safety thing to establish discipline. But from a spiritual perspective, and you'll see this really logically as soon as I say this, you actually don't appreciate grace until you actually understand the consequences. So that's why we had to have the law before Christ could bring grace. And the same in the life of a child. A self-centered 2-year-old, which essentially they all are, when you think you're showing grace to them, from their perspective inside their mind, they're getting away with it. They actually don't appreciate what you've done for them. So that's where you need to persist with the discipline and structure and consequences, and as they get older, the training. And then when they get to preteen and especially teenagers, and they've done something that deserves a consequence, but you can see their attitude about what they've done, and you extend grace to them when they full well know what the consequence should be, that then is extremely powerful. They actually understand grace. They actually respond to what you're doing to them. So yes, grace is very important, but you need to bring that into the life of your child when they're morally able to appreciate the grace. You've actually got to set the consequences first, and then bring grace into their life once they understand the consequence.
And if I can just pick up on what he was saying there about a lot of parents wanting their kids to like them and trying to be their friend from the get-go like that. Well, I can say from our perspective, you
always hated your parents.
we were given discipline, and we obviously don't hate our parents because of that. We understand obviously at the time you cry and carry on because it hurts, but you appreciate what they did for you. And then there's the other side of the coin. I was just talking this afternoon with one of my friends. She works with mental health and well-being of teenagers and young people with Headspace. And she says one of the common complaints she gets from young people and kids that co-op with the problem is they say, oh, my parents just don't care. I can do whatever I want. They just don't care. And she knows, because she knows the situation. She knows.
And these are kids with suicidal ideation and really severe issues.
All over the spectrum. Some of them mild things, some of them much more severe. And if she knows the situation, she knows, oh, the parents are just trying to be nice to their kids. They want to be their kid's friend. They want to be liked. But the kids just see it as, well, my parent doesn't give me any boundaries. They just don't care about me. I can do whatever I want. And that really, it isn't good for them inside. They feel like they don't know why. They're not necessarily connecting these things and understanding this is why they're feeling like this. But she can see it as a pattern that they just think their parents don't care. They don't, as Dad was saying, they don't appreciate grace because they haven't been given any structure or any boundaries to begin with. And the boundaries really are there to, as we said earlier, to keep you safe, not just physically keep you safe from like danger like cars and fire and things like that, but also emotionally to keep you safe and to know, where limits are and, to help you function as a human being. Because at some point in your life, whether you're godly and you want to follow God's rules, or whether you just want to be a citizen of the Commonwealth or whatever, and obey the laws of the land, well, you've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think something Sebastian said triggered a thought for me. Like, I think that consolidates why we're wanting to talk about process, because all these things like being a friend with our children, showing them grace, they kind of resonate with us, and they're not wrong, but you got to do them in the right order. And so talking about doing things and so that's why, you know, trying to lay out this process where it's discipline, and it should be all over, and, you know, the discipline phase is sort of all over and done with by about the time they're 7. You've transitioned into teaching and instruction well and truly, sort of, you know, you start transitioning around sort of 4 and 5, and you're well out of discipline then. But well, often what you might see is a parent that's just let a child go, and then when the child's a teenager, they suddenly don't like what they're seeing, and their instinctive reaction is to like clamp down, and with often disastrous results. And that is classic case of having it backwards. You should have done all the clamping down, and well, not you do the structure and discipline at a young age, and then as a teenager that you should be opening up and opening the boundaries. You know, a child that's older should be being allowed to progress in level with their maturity.
And the discipline really is a kindness, because it makes the rest of their life so much easier. If they've learnt discipline and what rules mean before they start school, their school life is going to be a whole lot more enjoyable. Whereas if they haven't learned discipline by the time they're 6, they're going to be coming home from school every day like, oh, the teacher didn't let me do this, and I was trying to do that, and they're going to hate school because they've never learned to, you know, follow, you know, instructions and to respect other people.
So the bottom line is, from a biblical perspective, and you can go look at this in the 10 Commandments where it's underlined really quite clearly, is a child will never learn to obey God. Like, remember the process of Abraham where he was going to teach his children obedience? That's why God was his friend. Well, a child will never learn or willingly obey God if they haven't learned to obey their parents first.
That's a good point, isn't it? Yeah.
In the reading we read in Deuteronomy, we read about training. Just check it. Yeah, about train. In essence, that's training, isn't it? We talk about it when you walk along the way. And so, what do you got to say about training? I mean, we've talked about discipline. So training is your next step.
Yeah. Well, look, before we get to training, can I just talk about the goal of parenting? Because it's sort of training being the middle bit really is where you see the goal of parenting played out fully. So maybe this will explain it. Because like, what is the goal of parenting your children? Like, why have this process? And I think the best explanation is 1 Timothy 1 verse 5, where it says, the goal of our instruction is love from a sincere heart and a good conscience. So the whole goal of training our children is to instill a conscience in them where they're activated about doing the right thing. So when you're not there to say, these are the rules and do this and don't do that, inside themselves, they actually have a conscience about what's right and wrong and are activated out of love to do the right thing. So that is the goal of our parenting, like from a godly perspective.
And
growing kids with a great conscience.
As Christadelphians, obviously, everyone would love to have their children grow up and be baptized, but you know, as a parent, that can't really be your goal. That's going to be their goal. But we know from 1 Peter chapter 3 that you know, verse 21, it says that, you know, baptism now saves us, not the putting away the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards God. And so, you know, as I said, as a parent, you can't be your goal to have your children be baptized, but your goal can be to instill in them a good conscience. And then hopefully you know, that good conscience will bring in them their own desire to become baptized and, you know, to take that on as their own faith as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that slight detour might now explain what training's about, because training is really where the pedal hits the metal on that goal. And training is where you have a child that now actually has cognition and can understand things. So you move from discipline to actually training them in the way. And, you know, like often you find yourself in the supermarket aisle, you know, they're poking the bread in the bread bag because it feels so squishy. And you're like, don't poke the bread. Like, it's not, you move from discipline, you're actually training them in their heart as to the reason why. So we often talk about in parenting, it's about sharing the moral reason why. So it's not about having a list of rules, but the reason why we do certain things. So don't poke the bread because you squash it all out of shape and then people can't fit it in their toaster. And, you know, you're down the park, don't pick the flowers, because once you pick that flower, it's gone, and everyone coming after us can't enjoy God's beautiful creation. And what's another one? Oh, yeah, a really good one is, you know, don't run in the hall. So don't run inside the ecclesial hall, because the older aunties and uncles that are very frail and feeble are absolutely terrified when they see a young child running. So it's not about a rule, don't run in the ecclesial hall, because like youth group games night, they're allowed to run in the hall. You actually share the reason why. And most of the reasons, funnily enough, end up about loving God and loving others. And this is where, when you've given the boundaries, the discipline, and they've actually started to develop a sense of empathy, and then you give the moral reason for the empathy. You know, like a child going to school isn't going to take a Bible in their lunchbox. And, you know, you can't, when your child goes off to high school and, you know, you're really worried about them, you can't send them off with a conscience. You've actually got to develop that day by day as you're walking in the, paraphrasing Deuteronomy 6, as you're walking in the supermarket, as you're in the park, as you're in the ecclesial hall. You're actually pointing out the moral reason why you're asking them to behave in certain ways, which often is about thinking of others. But there's other things that we bring in that are in God's law, like, you know, respect for elders and respect for other people's property, respect for people's person, all those things.
And to emphasize,
now instead of having the discipline that you have sorted out for them and saying, you know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, they're creating their own.
Yeah, so that's really the transition when you're, are we all right to do this? Talk about the progression to coaching? Or did you want to just...
Sebastian, want to say something?
Yeah, just with those examples, it's important that, yeah, it's a process. We don't start with that. Like with a 2-year-old, if they're poking the bread in the aisle, you just give them a smack on the hand and they stop doing it. But, you know, when they're getting a little bit older and they can start to think about it, because there's no point telling a 2-year-old to think about the reason why. They're not ready for that.
A 2-year-old, you probably got them strapped in the trolley, like, you know.
Hopefully.
As they get older, then, because, you know, at that younger age, they get a smack on the hand, they learn not to do that. It only applies to that particular situation. But when they're getting a little bit older, then they're able to understand more of a reason why. And as Dad was saying, then it's not a list of rules. They understand the reason. So then they themselves can apply it to other situations, and it's not quite so narrow.
So as you get to coaching, which I think this is where you were alluding to, Robert, perhaps in your question, what you're trying to do is everything that you've taught along the way, you're trying to activate in them and actually get them to use the conscience and exercise it. And so you don't exercise a teenager's conscience by telling them, you must do this and you must do that, and we're about to get in the car, have you cleaned your teeth and gone to the toilet? You got to let them be self-directed to a certain extent. But more importantly, as they become teenagers, a lot of the time it's sitting down and actually asking them, well, what do you think is the right thing that you should be doing in this situation? And one of the learnings we had was with teenagers, you're always trying to, and I know you've had sessions on this in detail, so just in summary, you're always trying to parent in times of non-conflict. Like teenagers have this thing where they're developing their prefrontal cortex still, and sort of they can't deal with logic and emotion at the same time. So if people are emotionally invested and in the situation, that's not the time. But when people are calm and out of the situation, you can talk about it rationally and objectively. But your goal is to ask them, what do you think is the right thing to do and why? And they'll search around, and all these things that you've put into their heart along the way, when you've sat down, risen up, doing around the readings, that's really important as part of your family culture where you've had discussions around God's word. All these things that you've put in their heart, they then get the opportunity to cognitively think them through and be activated by them.
And one thing Mum used to do along those lines is like when we were young teenagers and had our own responsibilities around the house and things, and if Mum saw that the bin was overflowing but I sat down to read my book, she wouldn't say, hey, you haven't taken the bin out yet. She'd be like, are you free to sit down and read your book? And then that would make me think, oh, is there anything else that I need to be doing? And so rather than her telling me to do something and then I'm getting upset that Mum's telling me what to do, she's just like, oh, is there anything else that you should think about first? And then I have to think about it myself. I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably take the bin out first, and then I can sit down and read my book.
Yeah. So it's creating a moral compass for young people, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Where they can then drive their own moral direction, really.
Yeah. So sometimes we still need little reminders, but more subtle general reminders, and because which only works if you've already had this process leading up to it, building up all these blocks so that we have the tools to be able to find the direction once given the subtle hints.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so one of the other things that we would also utilize along with the moral development in terms of their conscience is also give them opportunities to show themselves more responsible and have more freedoms by we always try to link a responsibility to a privilege. Even with my adult children, okay, so some of them got their own cars now, so this doesn't quite work. But back when they were able to drive my car, it was a privilege for them to be able to use my car. But there were certain responsibilities in terms of there were family rules about how they drove it that they had to follow. And if they didn't follow those responsibilities, they lost the privilege of using the car. But that sort of thing, the privileges and responsibilities become bigger, but you start with a young child. So like, a little toddler, would have to ask to go outside the house so that you know where they are. Like they can't just wander out the back door and wander off. They want to go play in the yard. Our rule was they had to ask Mum to go outside, so she knew. But, they got to a certain age where you're actually old enough to go outside by yourself, so you can take the compost bucket out first thing in the morning.
Yep.
And so that became your responsibility linked with that privilege of being allowed to just go outside when you please. Well, the compost bucket's overflowing, you haven't done it today. Well, now today you have to ask every time you go outside like your little brother and sister do. And, boy, does that then make them want to, do a good job next time and live up to that responsibility. So we would always naturally try to, so the progression, what I'm trying to show is that the process is not like discrete jumps where the child's a certain age and we've left disciplines for today's training day, it's a gradual transition. And one of the ways you transition is with the responsibilities and privileges, but also the moral reasons you give a child are often simplified like I gave you, and an older child, you're probably actually starting to explain Bible quotes that
Yes.
feed into that moral reason. So because they're able to understand more.
Yeah, I remember when we were quite a lot younger, you know, as the oldest, I remember being a bit miffed that my list of chores was a bit longer than my siblings. But then you know, it was pointed out to me, well, also the you know, the freedoms that you have and the, you know, ability that you have to stay up a bit later and use the computer, and you have all these things that you can do that they can't, but you've also, you know, you've got the ability to contribute in more ways to the family. So you're getting all these things, but you're also putting more in. And that, you know, then that sat quite a lot better with me. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fair.
So, you know, like the little kids, when they're toddlers sitting at the bench, Lisa would get them to help count the cups of flour into the mix. And then at an age, they're helping to set the table. And I don't know about you, but we had like there's all these different color cups and who gets what cup or what, you know, who gets the Winnie the Pooh plate and the Bob the Builder plate. Well, whoever set the table, that was their privilege to say who got what dinner set.
Right.
And then,
and you know, like, you don't get to lick any of the spoons if you don't help with the cooking.
the next phase is, you know, like a preteen child would help make a simple salad to go with the meal. But, you know, our children, you know, putting the water on and boiling the pasta is sort of a chore. All our children take turns cooking a meal one night of the week now. Like, that's just part of our family deal. Sebastian's turned in, hand makes pasta, like he's taken it to an extreme, hand makes pasta. But, you know, like that's been a progression in their responsibility, their contribution, where now they're our friends and cater for us in, you know, dining. But it sort of started off, you know, instructing them how to set a table.
And if you know, if I never got that chore and that responsibility, that job, I may never have found that I actually really enjoy cooking, and that's something that, you know, I really like to do. And, you know, if I hadn't got the opportunity to try it as one of our, you know, family jobs, you know, I may not have discovered that.
Yeah.
Our time is almost up, and it literally will end quite soon, mainly because of a technology issue. Is there any other, like, if you had something you were going to specifically say to parents parenting children, you know, if there's a specific piece of advice that they can take away, or a couple of specific pieces of advice, what would you say? I mean, you've covered a lot already, and I really love that. I just thought, if there's something specific you would like to add.
Yeah, look, you know, I think parenting is a God-given role, and you should enjoy it and, you know, play with our children, have fun. But you're a parent first, and you're progressing toward being a friend. But the thing that I'd encourage you in is that a family is a development environment provided by God. And it's like the ideal development environment where you're surrounded by people who love and forgive you. So you as parents love and forgive your children and give them another chance tomorrow. And your children love and forgive you, and your spouse loves and forgives you. So it's like an ideal development of the character environment that God's blessed us with. And so we should relish the opportunity to grow together as a family, to learn to be more like God as the parent, as a father, and grow in our appreciation of him, but do our best for each other in the way we treat our spouses and our children. And then that learning environment should extend to the ecclesia, where the ecclesia is the natural extension of that ideal learning environment that God's provided.
Thanks, Ben. What about you, Zoe? if you got any advice there that you sort of like, you'd go, this is what a parent needs to know from your experience of either nannying or from, growing up in a family.
Yeah, I think something that sticks out with me is I really like the way that mum and dad put a lot of importance on the family, like in as being a family. So we would do, there was also like, there was discipline and boundaries and things, but then there was also good things that we did together and fun things. So spending time together. So when we hit that teenage years, instead of getting in the car and running off, we still went on family outings. We still go family holidays. Even now, we still make time for a family because we've learned growing up the importance of a family and as an ecclesial family as well.
So you really value the whole family atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sebastian?
There's two things I thought of. So one of, just briefly, shortcuts aren't worth it. That's a lesson for a lot of things in life that you learn. And it's like, oh, well, I'm trying to get here. Well, I'll just go straight there. Well, no, there's a process. There's a way you get to it, and that just makes the end result so much more enjoyable because of all the things that you went along the way. And that's not to say that these other early years and stuff aren't enjoyable. Ask mum, she loves working with young children in these early years, and it's enjoyable because you're doing it properly and they respond. You're doing it the way that suits them and the level they're at, and they respond really well to that. And even though sometimes you think, well, this isn't the way I want to be treated, well, that's because you're in a different situation. At that age, that is how you wanted to be treated in that situation. And so, doing things the right way is really beneficial like that. And the other one was just that picking up on what Dad was saying earlier about linking responsibilities with privileges. And just as a kid, I just really resonated with that, is that these things are linked. And so, then I didn't mind getting new responsibilities because I knew it came with new privileges. And, any new privileges, I wouldn't, just, take off and, see how far I could push these privileges, because I knew these privileges came with responsibilities.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And can I just make a comment? Right at the beginning, Ben, you said that one of the things that really resonated strongly with you when you first attended the course was the responsibility that these young teenagers were exhibiting. And I would have to say your own children are a real tribute to you and Lisa, and just, again, show the proof is in the pudding. So we want to thank you all for sharing with us and being together to do this with all your different perspectives, which is really helpful.
Yeah, they've
thank
sort
you
of
very much.
superseded being unsupervised, heating up other people's meals, to actually creating quite spectacular.
Yeah.
Great.
They're very mature, and they're my friends. They're Lisa's friends. We're all each other's friends. That's one of the really wonderful things about family.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't have to try and start there, because you will get there. It is, if you do things the right way, you'll get to a really good, solid friendship that lasts for life. Rather than trying to be their friend at age 4, and then as soon as they're 16, they're out of your life.
But friends based on moral things and understanding and intellect, not friends based on, I'll give you this, so therefore you're my friend.
Yes.
That's just so shallow and not appropriate.
No, it's fantastic.
Okay, well, we'll have to close there.